Hello, everyone, and welcome to DocuTalks. The title of the talk today is Preserving Truth, the Role of Archives in War Documentation. And as you can see, we have a really wide and large panel representing really different practices and voices in that field. I'm going to start with this session by actually asking about a specific exhibition that opened last year in Kosovo. So to you, Blerta. The exhibition is called Once Upon a Time and Never Again. It was an exhibition that was about children in war and what happened to children during the war in Kosovo. It had quite a great effect in the country and led to many different ways of engagement for the public and the audience. And maybe I just wanted you, Blerta, to introduce us to the work, to the exhibition, to the impact it had, and what it led to now.
The exhibition Once Upon a Time and Never Again really was opened 5 years ago, but it is being a very sensitive topic, and also being in the city library, for many people, they don't know it is still open or it has opened so long ago. So we opened the exhibition in 2019 with the idea that it would be open just 1 year. But after the feedback we had from mostly from the parents of the victims and also from the large public, we decided not only to not close that exhibition, but also to enlarge the exhibition with other items of the children. So the exhibition is dedicated to the children who were killed or went missing as a result of the war. And the exhibition, it's not only an exhibition, but Humanitarian Law Center Kosovo had this idea that this kind of exhibition should be also as a memorial for this category of victims, because in Kosovo there are not still now there are not memorials like this. The exhibition is it has 3 different parts. If you happen to be in Pristina, it is still open, and we are trying to institutionalize it. It has artifacts, real artifacts that were given to our organization by the families and by the parents of the children, and they are very unique. They are more than unique, because sometimes these objects are the only thing that families have to remember their children, but they wanted to be there to tell their story through these artifacts, so the public would witness what happened to them. I can go very long talking about this exhibition, and it's not the same as being there. But I wanted just to mention that we have this very long wall where are written all those names, 1,133 children who were killed or went missing as a result of the war. And it was important that each of them has the name in the exhibition and wasn't just a number. If you notice also the title of the exhibition, it recalls a fairy tale, because Once Upon a Time is the beginning of every fairy tale, and each visitor that comes there, it has an idea that it will be something dealing with children. So never again, then it seems like a curse, but also it's a wish that events like this would never happen again.
Actually, for me, what touched me the most is understanding that when you started the exhibition and other families that had been affected, that had lost children in war, saw and felt represented and felt like they wanted to add an object also to the exhibition, and that it started being way collective and creating this collective memory that started from an institutional point of view that then included, that an institution instigated it, but then collectively rejoined by more and more and more people. And so it really makes me think of your film, Flaka, It's also a film based on quite a tragic story of the loss of a child during the civil war in Macedonia in 2001. You also based your film on testimonial, and I'd love for you to share more about it.
Yes, so the story of how that film started, there's two parallel things that happened at the same time. On one hand, Forum ZFD was consistently working with stories like that. In the book, Recalling 2001, which basically took interviews with people who had lost someone during the armed conflict and during that war. And on the other side, we had just finished another film that was about war. It was about women's perspective in war. It was called Mord. It also screened at DocuFest, I think, 3 years ago. And these things were happening parallelly just because there's definitely a need for these stories to be told, and it's a need that's consistent and unfortunately doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon. After Nal from Forum ZFD saw the film, then she contacted me about this new project. It was very difficult because one of the most difficult things for me as an artist is that you have to make justice by the project you're taking, because it's not just a film at that point. It's someone's story, it's someone's tragedy, and working with that is a bit of responsibility, and you really want to find a way to not feel exploitative about the work that you're taking on.
Thank you, Fleka. It really, actually, for me, what you're saying kind of resonates in a way with what Kumiana also does in what you do in your work and what you keep on doing, and especially with Silence of Reason. So Silence of Reason is actually a sort of, you call it performative research into the first international criminal tribunal case to enter war rape as a form of torture. And so in doing this film, I guess there's also a huge level of responsibility into how to use this material, how to represent what was being said in court, and you have a very specific form that you chose also to adopt in the film, and I'd love for you to expand on that.
For me, it's very important the position and the entrance of how we think about cinema and filmmaking and what we can create as an entrance to this world from this very specific, very powerful position. In that respect, I think that the form should be also as radicalized as possible and come from the cinematic material. The idea that we think of the form outside of the cinematic space is politically extremely problematic and goes hand in hand with the kind of oppressive systems that we see in politics.
This re-archiving is happening now more than 30 years after what happened, but also it makes me think about what is going on at the moment in Ukraine, where you have an ongoing archiving of the war, and Russia's act of aggression is actually now the most widely documented war of aggression that has been. And it makes me think of your film Intercepted. Oksana, when we were talking a bit earlier, you said, I don't think my film is archive. I think we created an archive with this film. And I would really, I'd love for you to expand on it, especially with the intercepts that you used.
So my film is basically the primary material of Intercepted was the intercepted phone calls of the Russian soldiers in Ukraine calling from the battlefield to their friends and family back home in Russia. And I discovered these fragments of these phone calls on the official YouTube channels of Ukraine Security Services. In the very beginning of the invasion, I was very quickly fascinated by this material, shocked as well. And and I just started like deeply listening to it gradually. I mean, it was a big. There is a massive of this material. These fragments, these phone calls were appearing online almost, actually even a few fragments every day, and it's still also an ongoing process, even though it changed during these 2 years. And the reason I think I was so much driven to work with this material, because I feared that it will be lost in the digital chaos, that it will never be preserved. And I don't think that the goal of the initial goal of these publications online were to archive them. I think the goal was to get more like a fast and immediate response from the wider audience, and not. I don't think there was a historical thinking behind publications of this material, and also I think that the primary audience of these posts were actually Russians themselves. I think that Ukraine security services used those publications to counter-battle Russian misinformation, Russian propaganda, by showing Russian audience or Russian-speaking audience the truth about what was going on in Ukraine.
And that brings me actually to you, Valentina. I would really love for you to explain the Ukraine War Archive, because it's something that is absolutely unique. I have rarely seen a platform like this, but it's a non-profit collaborative digital preservation platform that was started at the beginning of the full-scale invasion. And you obviously store with digital security also a huge amount of testimonials, of eye testimonies, eyewitness testimonies also that even your team undertakes. And then it's this resource now that is being available for a wide range of uses, and I would love for you to expand on it.
I'm Valentina, and I'm representing Ukraine War Archive. We established like a natural response to Russian full-scale invasion in 2022. The thing is, many of our team were all around Ukraine, and some of us saw explosions, some of us saw bigger explosions, some of us witnessed something even more horrifying, and as a team we realized we have to store this information somehow. We started storing, and in a while we realized that we have to do something with it, right? And if we are talking about digital materials, not even just digital evidences, but just a lot of massive amount of data, we have to structure it. And that's how the archive started. We are a digital platform, and we were established on the intersection of technologies and filmmaking industry. From one side, Ukrainian DocuDays UA organization is like filmmaking organization. From another side, UK-based Infoscope organization. They provided all technical support for us. So that's how Archive was created. And what we are doing there, we have two major directions. First one is closed source data, and second one is open source data. I'll start from open source because it's just easier. So what we have from open source, we preserve Telegram channels. We have around 3,000 Telegram channels. Mostly they are Russian, and we are making a screenshot of the whole page, copying the photo, copying the text, making a timestamp, like all the metadata, to one day, if it's needed, prove that it was there, like it was in Telegram, because we understand that it can be deleted. And we started talking a little bit in the beginning about the mess of data, right? And probably this conflict is the most documented war so far. But as I said, if we are not structuring it, we can't process it further. So the first idea is to gather all this information, like closed source and open source. The second one is to analyze it. So we have special tags. We preserving, like, we should understand whether it's a copy, what is digital copy. Like, we have all pictures all around where the original, right? So we are keeping all this information to one day, if it's needed, to provide to some criminal investigators. At the same time, we understand that maybe some filmmakers or just creative industries can do with it something faster, and maybe the impact will be, well, not faster, but it will appear. So we are, again, when we are talking about our stakeholders, we are working on the intersection, and if we are talking about our partners, we have state bodies who are using the archive. We have media that are uploading the materials, because we are asking, we have like an open call for anybody who has some pieces of materials to provide them to us. We are talking about investigative journalism, and we are talking about photographers who are ready to contribute. So yeah, from closed source materials, I've already started talking about it. We have broader interviews or just photos or videos that people witnessed and decided to transfer to us. The thing is that our ultimate goal is to create the intersections, but between the materials. Let's suppose that there was an event, and we know that this event was captured by some media. We also have 2 or 3 people who witnessed it, and we know that we can have one event, but it can be seen from different perceptions, from different perspectives, from different angles. And yeah, this is the goal. Probably we are heading to it, and it's not close. Still, we understand that we have to, from the very beginning, preserve the data properly, which means ask all consents, to write all the contracts, like agreements with copyright holders, with our partners, because when in terms of movies, we are talking about licenses, and maybe it's a bit less complicated, right? But when we are talking about law enforcement, well, just legal procedures, the evidences should be eligible. And even if we would like to, all the information, at least some pieces of information, could be used as direct evidences, but even if they are not, they could support the evidences. So that's what we are doing. Thank you.
It's absolutely, I mean, very, very impressive. And I feel like hearing all of this, I'm really conscious also of what happened, you know, here in Kosovo, in the former Yugoslavia, also about the lack of access to evidence, the lack of collecting evidence, the even ongoing now insecurity for certain people to even give testimonials and certain evidence that could still be relevant. If you have some questions for our panelists, so they can develop further on certain aspects of their practice.
So, throughout your panel, I was thinking, on the one side, you're doing documentaries and trying to document everything, how it happened. And on the other side, it's a movie, it's a story, it's art. Plus, then these are highly, extremely difficult experiences that not normal person would be uninfluenced, right? So you will have emotions, and then you, as an artist, you might want to present something more than what it was. Does this not conflict with trying to make a documentary? So how do you deal with that? Thank you.
We work with images, in the sense that you mentioned before, with mental images. And in the case of my film, the audio was the source of, even though it's a film and there is a visual line, but it's really the audio that creates that mental image more than the image itself, the media. But when I worked with the intercepted phone calls, I tried to really distance myself from my own experience in a way of the war, and to approach this material as a researcher, and to rationalize it, to analyze it. And I'm often being asked how I managed to listen to so many hours of very violent material. And that's this actually I managed because it was my work, because that's how I set this goal for myself, and I really worked with this audio as a researcher more than someone who lived the war. And I tried in that sense, even though, of course, we know that it's impossible to talk about objectivity in documentary cinema, but I tried to be as honest, I would say, as honest as possible and as responsible as possible with this one-on-one with this material.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone who came today.